Hi, I'm Robert Grossman and I'm a paratrooper in the United States Army. Every person that volunteers to the U.S. Army is first a volunteer because there's no conscription. So I volunteered for the Army, and then maybe moronically I volunteered to be a paratrooper and jump out of planes for the extra money. And then I volunteered a third time to be a special operations soldier. So I went to Airborne school, and Airborne school consists of 3 weeks. The first week is ground week, the second week is tower week where they drop you from a 200-foot tower, and the third week is jump week where you execute 5 parachute jumps, and one is a night jump with combat equipment, another is a day jump with combat equipment, and 3 just regular, we call them Hollywood jumps with no combat equipment during the day. So I want to tell you about my first jump. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about this whole thing. I'm terrified of heights, absolutely terrified of heights. I wouldn't even go on the roof of my house as a child. And when my dad used to drive me up to the mountains in northeast Georgia and say, "Oh, look off the pretty view spot that we stopped the car," I would sit by the car and scream because I was scared that I was going to fall off. So it's kind of a big deal for me to stand in the door of an aircraft at 1,000 feet and going 200 miles per hour and jump out. So we rig up our parachutes and get inspected like 6 times to make sure everything's safe. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Although the entire time I'm waiting for the actual aircraft to take off and execute my jump, I'm worried that I might have to go to the bathroom and take it all off. So the bathroom sensation passes and we load up in the aircraft, and after flying around for what seemed like 3 hours but was probably only actually about 30 minutes, we come over the drop zone, and I was in the front of the aircraft, so I was going to jump last, and there was another group in the rear of the aircraft which was going to jump first. So they called for the first pass jumpers to stand up and get hooked up to the static line and get ready to jump out. So the plane comes across the drop zone, and the jumpers start going out the door one by one, woof, woof, woof. And they get to this really small female lieutenant who goes up to the door, and her whole entire pack tray parachute was about as tall as she was. So all you could see was like boots sticking out from underneath it. And she gets to the door and she gets ready to jump and then hesitates at the door. And the jump master, who was one of the largest human beings I've ever seen in my entire life, says, "Green light, go." And she acts like she's going to jump, and then she hesitates again. And he says, "Let's go, green light, go," and slaps her on the back. And again, she goes forward like she's going to jump out, and then she just puts her arms out and grabs hold of the frame of the door. And at this point, the guy gets, his whole head turns as red as a tomato. He grabs this lieutenant by her parachute, pulling her away from the door, which takes her arms off the door, and then throws her out of the aircraft so violently that she hits the side of the plane like 3 times. And you can feel the plane shake as her body ricochets off the side of it. And all of us were a bit stunned because they had said, "If you don't want to jump, it's okay. We'll just sit you down and you don't have to jump. We're not going to throw you out." But this really large guy just threw this little female out of the aircraft going 200 miles per hour at 1,000 feet. He then turns and makes his way back to the jumpers that are going to jump out on the next pass and looks at us and points his finger at us and says, "Don't ever hesitate in my door." None of us said a word. Everybody at once just nodded their head in acknowledgement of his statement. So then he told us to stand up and get ready, and we come around, and I have never seen 30 people exit a door so fast in my entire life. I ran past him faster than I've ever ran in my entire life just so he wouldn't kick me, hit me, or throw me out of the aircraft. I came out so fast I forgot everything that I learned. I didn't check to make sure the parachute opened, nothing. I just jumped out screaming. And so when my parachute opened and the risers that are attached to your shoulders came up over my head, my face hit the risers, and I busted my lip all open. And I knew I was bleeding everywhere because I could taste it, but I was scared to like really touch it and see like how bad I was injured. So I just rode it on in and landed, and I was so happy that I didn't break my leg or get knocked unconscious or look down and there'd be like bone marrow leaking out of some sort of compound fracture on my leg, that I stood up and ran off the drop zone. And only then did I remember, wait a second, you busted your face open. And I turned to my buddy and he said, wow, your lip is really big. And I went over to the mirror of a vehicle and I looked, and I had split my lips open, and I looked like some sort of like surgery patient, and it was really embarrassing. But either way, I finished the next 4 jumps and earned my jump wings, and I was really proud of a kid that grew up being too scared to look at an overlook in northeast Georgia, jumped out of an aircraft 5 times. And since then I've done many, many more jumps, and it's quite an experience, and I recommend it to anybody stupid enough to do it. Go for it.